The Sorceress Kingdom's envoys moved swiftly. They visited villages, towns, even foreign courts. Their message: simple. Ainz desires peace. They offered supplies, protection, even limited autonomy. It was unheard of. A gesture of mercy from the ruler of death. Some were grateful, others were suspicious. But most were afraid to say no. The envoys were polite, respectful, calm, but always escorted by death knights. It was peace, with a blade drawn just behind the diplomat's smile. Meanwhile, far from Nazarick, the Slane Theocracy finally acted. Using the false intelligence seeded by Demiurge months prior, they launched a secret operation, Project Cleansing Flame. Their goal, not to kill Ainz. That was impossible. Instead, they sought to uncover weaknesses, test the walls of exploit cracks in the Empire's web of control. At its heart was a strike team made of elite paladins, assassins, and led by a warrior priest named Zishi Setsume. The half-elf monster once thought uncontrollable. She did not go quietly. She went eagerly. "Let me show the undead what a child of chaos really is," she said, smiling like a blade. Back in Nazarick, Albedo intercepted whispers of movement. Her intelligence network had improved. Tight, cold, and thorough. But Zeshi's presence distorted predictions. "She's not a piece on the board," Demiurge muttered. "She's a knife tossed onto the table." Ainz was curious again. He allowed the mission to unfold. No interference. No preemptive strikes. Because deep down, in the part of him that remembered video game events and PvP encounters, he wanted to see what happened. Was this curiosity or arrogance? Either way, the fire was lit. Zishi and her strike force had entered the game, and as they prepared to strike, Clime's rebels received news of another growing resistance. Not far from them, two storms were forming. And Ainz, the lord above them all, waited at the center. Ainz sat upon his ornate throne in the heart of Nazarick, the great tomb of the undead. Before him, a swirling vortex of magical energy, a window into the very flows of the world. Within it, Ainz saw the threads of fate, the connections between all living things. He watched as Zashi's strike force moved through the forest, their presence like a small flame in the vast darkness. There was something about the flickering light that intrigued him. "They are here for us, my lord," said Demiurge, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Zeshi Zetame, the self-proclaimed heretic queen, leads a force of elite warriors and mages. Their objective, to infiltrate Nazarick, and perhaps even to assassinate you. Ainz turned, his skeletal face impassive. "They have come so far to reach me. I suppose I owe them that much courtesy." He paused, a faint smile touching his lips. "Besides, I would be remiss if I did not observe the strength of the Slane Theocracy firsthand. It has been some time since I had a proper game." As Ainz watched, Zeshi and her knights reached the edge of Nazarick's territory. They were met by an envoy from the Sorcerer Kingdom, a lone figure cloaked in black robes. The envoy's face was hidden in the shadows, but his voice rang out clear and strong. "Greetings, Zishi. I am here as an envoy of the Sorcerer King, Ainz Ulgaun. My lord desires peace. In exchange for your nation's submission, we offer you safe passage and a place at our side." Zeshi smiled, a dangerous glint in her eye. "Peace? You bring an army to my doorstep and speak of peace. How very bold, very funny. Perhaps if you were anyone else, I might consider your offer. But I am the heretic queen. Submission is not in my vocabulary." The envoy remained unfazed. "Very well. Then I suppose there is no other choice." With a wave of his hand, several of the robed figures behind him stepped forward, their forms shifting and swirling until they became something more, something terrible. skeletal warriors with glowing red eyes and blades dripping with a strange black eye. They advanced on the stunned paladins, their presence reeking of death and decay. Ainz watched with amusement as the paladins scrambled to defend themselves against these new horrors. There was a brief moment of respite, when one of the knights managed to land a blow, sending a skeleton reeling backward. But the respite was short-lived. More skeletons poured out of the swirling vortex, endless waves of them, until the paladins were overwhelmed and forced to flee. "My Ainz," said, leaning back in his throne as he watched Zishi and her remaining knights ride away. "Such insolence. I do hope they are more careful next time. It would be a shame if someone important were to die on my doorstep." Demiurge bowed his head. "Shall I dispatch some of our more enthusiastic servants to retrieve the insolent heretics, my lord?" "No need, Demiurge. They have barely begun their little game. Besides, I believe it is about to become much more interesting." Ainz's eyes gleamed with anticipation as he continued to watch the fleeing knights, not knowing that far away, their leader Zishi was already plotting her next move. Meanwhile, in the human kingdom of Remedios, Clime's rebellion was growing. The people of Remedios had long suffered under the tyranny of the Sorcerer Kingdom. And when word spread that a rebellion was brewing, many were eager to join the cause. Clime, with his charisma and determination, inspired them to fight for freedom and equality. The rebels grew bolder, launching attacks against the Sorcerer Kingdom's forces and winning victories against overwhelming odds. It seemed as though the tide was turning. But Ainz was aware of the rebellion. In fact, he had allowed it to grow. He found it amusing to watch the humans squirm under his rule. He also knew that the rebellion was being manipulated by forces beyond their control, pawns in a greater game. Ainz knew that the Theocracy was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and when that moment came, he would be ready.